So greetings, everyone. Welcome again to this final keynote that we will have. And the time has now come for me to introduce Muluken Zewdu, who has been working rather in the financial sector for more than 16 years. He is a trainer as well as a practitioner who is regularly working with Ethiopia's Chamber of Commerce when it comes to organizing trainings for their members on various topics that could range from import-export trading to international banking and other related issues. Since 2019, he has been leading the trading firm Kelilullah Trading PLC, and he's the general manager, and that's a company that works in the import, export, and distribution of goods. So the title of his keynote address today is Export Procedures and Documentations, Important Facts that you need to know as an entrepreneur in Ethiopia. It is a great pleasure to have you amongst us, Muluken. So up to you, please.
Thank you very much, Mehret, and all the other participants. Welcome. Just to start, export procedures and documentations, we do have only 20 minutes. After that, we hoping that you will raise questions and I will give you the possible answers. Before starting the procedures and the documentations, export is a very essential and a crucial part in every country because it generates a foreign currency. Unless otherwise you generate the foreign currency, there is imbalance of trade or the country will face trade deficits since the import is greater than export. So everyone is willing to engage in export transaction and generate foreign currencies, so that the government will support those who engage in export trade rather than import. So we have to know the export procedures and documentation requirements. So just to inform you what the procedures we have in our Ethiopian context in the documentation requirements, I would like to start from the major export procedure. The major procedures we have to follow are listed here on. Export business registration process is a major procedures. What does it mean, export registrations process? No one is allowed to engage in export or import businesses without registration or without knowing in the government authority. In our case, Ministry of Trade has to get your details before starting exports. So you have to register yourself as an exporter. After registration.
Can I bother you? I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Is there any way you can put on your PowerPoint presentation as well while we proceed, maybe?
Shall I share?
Yes, it would be nice if you could. Thank you so much.
Fine.
Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. That's okay. Is it visible?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. These are the major procedures. Export business registration process is the first part. The second one is export licensing process. There is a process. The first one is registration process. The second one is acquiring the required export license. And the last, but not the least, is export document preparations. These are the major procedures. We will see in the details. There are also major steps before proceed to export transactions. The first one is export order acknowledgement. These are the steps. First, you have to accept, you have to have order, and that order must be acknowledged by your company or by yourself. Then, after getting the order or acknowledging the order, you will have contracts, signing of a contract, registration of these contracts. Then you will apply for export permits. To whom? To all commercial and government banks. We will see which products shall be lodged to commercial banks and which products for government banks. The third one is application for export consignments. This includes the quality and testing certification. Before consign the goods, it is the requirement of the government. The quality should be certified or tested. After this, you will fulfill any compliance requirement for movement of the goods from your warehouse to port of loading. All in all, if there is any ambiguity on your movement of goods, you can get insurance from the local insurance companies. From your warehouse to the port of loading, you have to insure your goods. Then at the border, there are customs. Customs should certify all the requirements are fulfilled by the exporters, then declare to move the goods to port of loading. Then the final step will be movement of your export cargo to the port of loading. All these are the major steps we are going to incur, but it depends on the types of items or the types of goods exported. So, what are the procedures? What are the procedures of commercial registrations and acquiring business license? As a trade rules in Ethiopia, no business person is required. No business person is required to have a business license or investment permit to export. Without getting a business license or investment permit, export is impossible. There is a room, there is a slight room in which the government is allowed without having a license or investment permits. Some items will be go out or shipped out. What we call it, if the goods are treated as small items. If small items without business license and investment license, you can export that goods. But you have to follow the procedures which is set out by the National Bank of Ethiopia. Commercial registrations, our proclamations, you can go and refer it. I just give you hint. The proclamation number is 980/2016. This proclamations gives you all the details how commercial registrations are accomplished, how business licenses are acquired, what are the procedures, how the business license are renewed. All the details are over there, no need of just reading all the proclamations. But what I'm advising you, before starting exports, you have to have those documents. One, registration. registration certificate plus business license. Once you register, you have the right to get a business license. Once you get the business license, you have to maintain this business license for 1 budget year or 1 physical year. Then you have to renew this one. This is the procedures what I'm telling you. The other procedures, you have to, once you get the business license, you have to apply for export account number to National Bank of Ethiopia. National Bank of Ethiopia will give you export account number. Without having export account number, no bank will give permits for shipment of your goods. So, after finalizing or after acquiring the business license, just you have to go to National Bank of Ethiopia and lodge your request to have export account numbers. Then the National Bank of Ethiopia will give you export account numbers. Now you registered your company, your business is recorded as exporter once you get export account number. Then, now you have export business license, you have NB or National Bank account numbers. Then you have to make sure that you have finalized your internal activities. The first one is, are you ready for export? Do you have sufficient staff? Do you have sufficient capital to acquire the required goods to be exported? Maybe you may manufacture, you may engage in manufacturing businesses. So you have to have sufficient stocks on your hand. And others, before applying export permits, because export permit is valid for 13 days from the date of issue, then it will be expired within the same months. You have to make sure that you have an order. The orders are ready for the export. Here, in my slide, the major step, export order acknowledgements. Now you prepared everything, you have well-designed websites, now you have a buyer, now the buyer gives order. Then you acknowledge that order. That means you have sufficient stock. Immediately after acknowledging the order, you will have a contract between you and the buyer. That contract must be registered at bank as well, Ministry of Trade here in Ethiopia. That is a requirement. Especially those items that purchased from ECX, Ethiopian Commodity Exchange, should be registered at Ministry of Trade within 24 hours after signing export contract. Needless to say, whenever you sign a contract, you have to make sure that is it the method of payment we agreed is workable, because there are 4 methods of payments allowed in our country context. Method of payment. The first one is letter of credit. Second, cash against document. Third, advance payment. And the last one is consignment. These 4 methods of payments are only allowed for export. But internationally accepted method of payments are 5. That the remaining one is open account. If you sign a contract by using open account, immediately your contract will be rejected, not yet registered by Ministry of Trade or banks. So you have to make sure that method of payments are allowed or not. Am I clear? Masarat, Merat?
Yes, you are. I'm following. Yes, you are until now.
Fine. So you have to make sure that the method of payments are allowed or not. Not only the method of payments, there are also the delivery terms, what we call it Incoterms. There are Incoterms which are not allowed procedurally by the National Bank of Ethiopia. Let's say C and F, which means cost and freight, is allowed, but CIF, cost, insurance, and freight, which means a delivery term which includes insurance, is totally not allowed by National Bank of Ethiopia. So you have to make sure that insurance is not included in any of Incoterms or delivery terms. Then, after signing of a contract, the next step, you have to have an ID from Ministry of Revenue for single window system. Single window systems. You have to apply or you have to get an ID for single window systems, because any applications, that is export permit applications, export sales contracts, and other competent certificates will be applied or shall be applied by these single window systems. So you have to have this ID. So you just go to there, or you can online apply and get your ID. So now you have analyzed the major steps and ready the goods to be exported. For instance, if you are going to export coffee, the required or the ordered amount of coffee should be kept in your warehouse. Then the inspector, which means the Minister of Agriculture, will check the coffee and tea authority will check the quality of that items. Then you will get a certificate for that one. So you will apply export permit by using single window system. If you have any doubts on this issue, I will advise you how to get single window ID from Ministry of Revenue. So once you get the export permits, you are ready to export the goods to the port of loading. In our case, the port of loading, if it is sea shipment, Djibouti, and if it is air, Addis Ababa airports. So let me back. So export permits shall be valid for 30 days. What does it mean? Let's say if you are ready to ship the goods as of today is May 20, Your permit is valid for only 10 days. Until May 31st, the permit is valid. The permit is valid. 30 days doesn't mean that today is May 20 until June 13, the permit may not be valid. This is the National Bank of Ethiopia regulation. So you have to have sufficient time to ship the goods. There is also a limitations if you are opted or if you choose the method of payment cash against documents, because most of the Ethiopian exporters are agreed on cash against documents. Cash against documents. So the National Bank of Ethiopia limits the cash against document amount. That is the maximum amount of cash against document is $500,000 for all commercial banks. If you have 600,000 USD contract, you have to apply for National Bank of Ethiopia. So you have to take into considerations even the amount and the method of payment you are going to use. Also, as an exporter, exporters, you have the right to maintain retention accounts, which means now you are eligible for exporters. You recorded or maintained an account with National Bank of Ethiopia, now registered as an exporter. So you have the right to retain your foreign currency generated from your export transactions. 70% of what you are exporting, you can retain in your retention account. This is your rights. How can we use these export procedures? How can we use this retention account? The details I will share you the National Bank of Ethiopia directive. But even though it is your right to maintain foreign currency accounts, the National Bank of Ethiopia will revoke these rights, exporters' rights, if you are committed the following mistakes: under invoicing, over invoicing, and so on. So now the goods are ready for exports. Once you finalized the customs procedures, National Bank of Ethiopia will require 90 days repatriation of the foreign currencies. Now the goods already shipped. The next step is you have to bring in the foreign currency amount within 90 days. It is limited here in Ethiopia. Unless otherwise you repatriate the amount of foreign currency within 90 days, totally you will be fall under delinquent list of National Bank of Ethiopia. So make sure that you always repatriate the foreign currency within 90 days. This is the major procedures. There are document requirements. These document requirements are pre-shipment documents and post-shipment documents. You have to know that export documentations has to be properly submitted for banks here in local banks as well for foreign banks. Once you fail the document required by the buyer or the foreign banks, totally the foreign currency will not be repatriated within a given period of time. So for your next shipment, you will face a difficulties. So document should be prepared properly. Document should be prepared properly. Here you can read our foreign exchange control regulations. The repatriation period is limited 90 days. If you are using documentary credits, the maximum amount is 500,000. Regarding the document requirements, document, especially if you have a contract, your contract must be registered within 24 hours. And other required documents will be presented as per the buyer's requirements. Further, you have to know that international regulations, without knowing these international regulations, export business is very difficult. You have to approach banks. You have to approach Ministry of Trade and others and understand what international regulations says. For instance, for documentary credits, Uniform Custom Practice 600 is applicable. What does it mean? So you have to prepare your documents based on international regulations, as well the local one. For instance, in our context, commercial invoice shall be or must be signed. This is our local regulations, but the international regulations allowed you commercial invoice may not be signed. So you have to know the international regulation as well. So method of payments like letter of credits, CAD, the cash finished documents, advance payments, and consignments are allowed for export transactions. Whenever you choose this export method of payments, you have to know the risk behind each method of payments. For documentary credit, you have to have a knowledge or a detailed understanding of the letter of credits. Finally, whenever you use or whenever you choose advance payment as a method of payment for your export transaction, as per the National Bank of Ethiopia, purpose of payment should be clearly indicated on the advance payment SWIFT message, because you can use cash notes, you can use bank remittance, or any foreign currency, non-resident foreign currency for export in advance payments. But whenever you received advance payment through SWIFT or through banks, the National Bank of Ethiopia clearly needs to indicate the types of items to be exported. So if it is not yet inserted or clearly stated, you can't export by that advance payments. So it will create or it will have a negative impact on your relationship with the buyer. So you have to know such procedures. All in all, this is all about the procedures. Maybe the time is 5:30. So the rest one is allocated for question and answers. It is better to answer a question and address some issues which are not cited on my keynotes. Thank you very much, Merit.
Thank you very much. But since we're still waiting for some of these questions to come through, you can continue with your keynote until we start receiving some questions.
Okay, shall I continue?
Please, with pleasure. Thank you.
Well, whenever, let me back.
As you go back to those parts of the presentation, I see one question that I would like to ask you after you finish your presentation. And I'll just jot it down for you because this procedure is quite complex. So are there any institutions in Ethiopia that can help us with that? Or somebody that can assist us in terms of explaining the checklist easily?
Yeah.
Quite complex and has many, many steps. So if there are any companies or institutions that help, that would be one question.
Any other? Any other question?
Muluken, I think this is Beatrice from the Good Business.
Okay.
I think Meheret just froze, but maybe you answer the first question and then she is back.
Okay. Let me answer the first question. Regarding the company who assist exporters in the regular way, I have never seen. This is a major problems here in Ethiopia, because you have to wander here and there to get information. Different offices, the governments and other offices will have their own procedures, unless otherwise you go there or unless otherwise you refer their websites. There is no company who assists this one. But currently what I'm seeing, training giving companies like consultants are organizing such informations and provide for exporters via their members like Ethiopia Chamber of Commerce. Sometimes the National Bank of Ethiopia also organize a training. So by using such training program, they try to address the procedures and others experience sharing program. But in my history, I have never seen a company who assists the exporters like this.
Yes. Okay, so I have one more question for you. I hope you can hear me. So when it comes, you already mentioned it a little bit because you said that some entities like the National Bank of Ethiopia or COSPIA or others organize trainings to make it easier, yes?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the government has a plan to do something in this regard, because there's a lot of opportunity that exists to be able to support local businesses and to also support the national economy if some of these steps are easier and simpler, let's say. So do you think that the government is planning something in that regard?
Yeah, as I have mentioned earlier, giving more attention for exports transaction is one of the government plan.
Yes.
Because currently, as you have heard or as you have seen, there is a severe foreign currency in financial institution. You get the foreign currency for import purpose. You have to wait from 3 months up to 6 months after application. So it is one of the government plans. What I'm heard, the Minister of Trade also try to assist Ethiopia and the Chamber of Commerce, to support exporters under their capacity building program. I think they are on the way, hoping that in the future, like schools will be opened and provide a training for exporters, even for bankers and exports companies employees, in order to have experience, knowledge related with these export transactions. So I think the government give more priority on this issue.
Okay. Okay, then when it comes to applying for a license to export, yeah? I know that many mistakes are committed, obviously, but what is the most common one, the one that you see often? What is the most common mistake that you see?
Application for export?
A license to export, yes. Thank you.
Application for export. Actually, application currently, I'm not quite sure. There are 28,000 registered exporters. For what purpose the exporters are registered and try to get export license? This is a main issue. You know that there is a shortage of foreign currency. Whenever the company apply for that foreign currency for their import purpose, they have to wait a minimum of 3 to 6 months. The reason behind is there is no enough foreign currency in financial institutions. In the other side, exporters who generate a foreign currency will get foreign currency for their import within less than 3 months. So the shortcut is engaged in export business without having a knowledge, without experience, a company will apply for export license. Clerical error, that's okay. It is acceptable. But the main problem is, what was the intention? What was the intentions that company apply for export license? Totally, that export company is not ready to engage as a main business of export, just to purchase items to be exported and sold or sell that foreign currencies, then he will generate that foreign currency. Now he can apply banks for import purpose. But the price offered, or the price that company offered, is lower than what the real exporters offer. So there will be under invoices. For instance, I am the real exporters. My business is engaged in export company. I have ample experience on the export. So I want to export sesame seeds, and my price is currently $1,400. But the other exporters who have not intended to engage in the export purpose, just enter or get the export license for his import request, to fulfill his import request, may offer the same quality sesame seeds by $1,315. Now the buyer will buy the cheapest one. So the real exporter will be out of the markets. So the main problem, the main mistake who engaged in export business is lack of foreign currencies. The reason is lack of foreign currencies, shortage of foreign currencies. They are not the real exporters. But as to my understanding, export transaction and import transaction has to be done based on the profits as well, with knowledge and experience. But now, thanks to Ministry of Trade now put in place the minimum price. So no one will sign a contract below that minimum prices. Now it is okay. It is a great mistake. Those exporters engaged for the purpose of generating the foreign currencies, because the intention is there is a loss, but that loss will be covered from their imported items. This was a great mistake. But regarding the clerical issue, sometimes you applied for export of coffee. You have a license or a business license for coffee, but you may sign for sesame seeds, sesame seeds. Then you will finalize your contracts, everything, maybe advance payment you may receive. Then when you go to bank or applications, where is your license for sesame seeds? Yes, this is my license. No, this one is for coffee. What does it mean? You need only a business license. No. You have to mention the business you engaged. clearly you have to inform which license you need to have. So whatever you need, you have to endorse at the back of your license. So I have seen such mistakes in my life. Maybe it will have many issue in how I have a training and a meeting for next week. If I have got any informations from Minister of Trade, those who register and issue business license will share their experience, and I will let you know if you have any additional information.
Well, thank you very much. We didn't have many questions because I guess of the complexity and the level of details that you shared with us. Yes, I guess it's a process that still requires for it to be less demanding and less complex, make things easier. And like you said, the major issue is the availability of foreign currency, and I don't think neither you nor I at this point can really find a solution for that.
Pardon.
No, I'm just saying that you mentioned all the complex
Sure.
aspects that come into play.
Yeah.
So maybe that is why we don't have as many questions, because of the weight of all the information that we have.
Yeah.
And again, you also mentioned the fact that foreign currency is always a major problem,
Sure.
but that we cannot solve here. So
yeah. This is a big burden issue. Huh?
yeah, it's a major one.
That is a major one.
But thank you for the detailed information. I'm sure that the information will still remain available so that people can still access your detailed explanations when the need arises.
Sure.
Since we don't have many questions, I will have to say thank you very much for that detailed info, and also hope that you'll join us for the last event of our bootcamp, which is going to be a panel with a discussion as well. So on behalf of the Good Business and on myself as well, I want to say thank you very much, Muluken Zewdu, and thank you to all participants. We will be back after a little break, and we will resume at 6, I guess. Thank you once again.